水の呼吸。三の型流舞。
I tried this technique over and over myself, but for some reason, no water ever comes out.
What did you just say?
I should have fully mastered the forms of water breathing, and yet somehow not a single drop of water comes from my blade. I'm swinging my katana using the exact same kata as Tanjiro.
Are you out of your mind? I'm asking this in the hope that you're not crazy, but you do understand that Demon Slayer is a fictional anime, right?
Maybe my true attribute wasn't water breathing after all, but fire breathing.
Please, stop that serious face right now and tell me it's a joke.
Even with the SAMURAIMAN mask on, can Sukaroku still see right through my face?
What the hell? He's dead serious. Welcome to the YouTube channel SAMURAIMAN's Journal. My name is Sukaroku, and I am a time machine created in the 24th century future. And this man wearing the SAMURAIMAN mask is named Kusunoki, a genuine samurai who time traveled here from the 17th century. Using my stealth function that allows me to transform into anything, I have transformed into a 21st century AI PC. And I am currently residing long-term in modern Japan alongside my master, SAMURAIMAN. One day, Kusunoki, also known as SAMURAIMAN, was binge-watching the hit anime series, Demon Slayer. After finishing the latest season of Demon Slayer, Kusunoki was so hyped that he suddenly switched off the TV, stood up, and grabbed his sword. And even though it was the middle of the night, he went out to the back mountain and began swinging his twin swords in the deserted area. If anyone had seen him doing this, they would surely have called the police. Kusunoki's bizarre behavior didn't end that day, it continued for over a month after that. Every day, just before dawn, Kusunoki returns home from the back mountain and goes straight to bed without even taking a bath. Then, after sleeping soundly until around noon, he wakes up as if from a nightmare. During the day, he watches Demon Slayer while writing something with a brush and conducting research. Come nightfall, he heads back to the back mountain to swing his katana once more. Then, on the morning of the 49th day, Kusunoki returned home drenched in sweat and said in a somewhat disappointed tone,
No matter how many days I train, I just cannot master water breathing. The forms of my katana swings should be perfectly precise, and yet not a single drop of water comes from my blade.
I've been wondering about this for the past 49 days, but you don't seriously believe Demon Slayer is a true story, do you?
Demon Slayer is a story about slaying Oni, right? That kind of tale has existed in Japan for ages. But what really bothered me was that Japanese Oni were translated as demons in the English-speaking world. That is like translating a rice ball as a hamburger. Oni are Japanese yokai, while demons are more like evil spirits in Western culture. So from my perspective as a Japanese samurai, I honestly wish they had titled it Oni Slayer instead of Demon Slayer.
I see, your mind is in worse shape than I thought. You seem to genuinely believe that Japanese Oni and Western demons actually exist. Conclusively speaking, no matter what breathing technique you use or how you swing your katana, it's impossible for water or fire to shoot out from the blade.
Sukaroku, you might think that way because you are a machine, but the world is full of strange things. And speaking of strange, you yourself are a time machine from the 24th century. Compared to the fact that a transforming, talking time machine actually exists, Demon Slayer feels far more realistic.
Well, believe whatever you want, but no matter how passionately you train with a katana, I do not think you will become a member of the Demon Slayer Corps.
Just you wait and see. I will prove that even I can become a Hashira as long as I fully master the forms. But now that I think about it again, maybe I should have been practicing the forms of fire breathing from the very beginning. If I did not have the water attribute, there was no need for me to study the forms of water breathing that deeply in the first place.
It sounds like you honestly believe that just mastering the form alone would let you use the techniques of the Demon Slayer Corps.
not just the form of the sword. Whatever the form may be, in any field, if it is mastered, then on that way, anything becomes possible, and anyone can become anything. That is what kata really means. What I dislike most about the translation in Demon Slayer is how this uniquely Japanese concept of kata is casually reduced to the word form. Because of that, the true appeal of Demon Slayer is not fully reaching English-speaking audiences.
For a samurai who time traveled from the 17th century, you sure know a lot about English.
I know my way around Japan's spiritual culture, but if anything, English is more my weak suit. And tell me, does Sukeroku honestly think that is fine too?
What on earth do you mean?
Are you really fine with the kata passed down through Tanjiro, Sabato, Giyu, and Urokodaki being treated like an empty catchphrase such as water-breathing first form?
Easy, Tiger. Just because kata was translated as form, there is no reason to get that worked up and angry, right?
Sukeroku, you know. Could it be that you do not really understand what kata is?
Big data in the 24th century doesn't record small, insignificant bits of information like the minor culture of some island nation at the far eastern edge of the world. Therefore, in this case, it should be interpreted not as Sukeroku doesn't know, but rather as the Japanese concept of kata isn't that famous.
Still the same guy with that sky-high pride, huh? But if that's the case, you should know it all the more. Japan's kata is truly profound, so hop onto the internet of this era and check it out. If you did, then you should be able to understand the true appeal of Demon Slayer as well.
I found the Japanese concept of kata surprisingly interesting, so I'd like to share that appeal with everyone here.
If slaying Oni is the surface story of Demon Slayer, then kata is its hidden theme. Reducing that to a single word like form would be doing the original author dirty.
You really are persistent. I'll explain the difference between form and kata right now, so please be quiet for a moment. When everyone watches Demon Slayer, the subtitles display this water-breathing first form. Most people interpret form in a specific way. You might think of a batting stance in baseball or shooting form in basketball. It implies the most efficient posture or movement pattern. However, if everyone interprets kata as merely poses or attack patterns, you'll be missing half the soul of this work. When Japanese people hear the word kata, they don't just imagine physical movements. They think of a philosophy and a state of mind passed down over hundreds or even thousands of years. In Western culture, form often refers to the most practical, optimal solution. The form for hitting a ball farther, the form for running faster. It is scientific and functional, and if a better method is found, that form is rewritten. However, Japan's kata is different. In Japanese, kata carries the meaning of a mold. Imagine a mold into which molten metal is poured. It's about pouring your unstable self into the perfect vessel called kata, crafted by those who came before. In other words, kata isn't a means to express your individuality initially. It's a process for suppressing your individuality and becoming the ideal vessel. Kata exists in all aspects of Japanese martial arts, traditional performing arts, and the creative process of Japanese culture including kendo, judo, karate, no, kabuki, tea ceremony, flower arrangement, and calligraphy. For example, a kendo, ippon, is not just the act of bringing the katana down, it is a complete expression where breathing, footwork, gaze, distance, and a calm state of mind all come together. It carries meaning that goes beyond simply performing the correct movement. In the tea ceremony, too, kata exists in every movement of the hands preparing the tea and in the placement of each utensil. These are practical methods, but they are also a system of rituals that calm the mind and express respect for the guest. Through repeated practice of kata, one naturally becomes aware of their own mental state. For example, in the Iaido practice, even the slightest impatience or anger will disrupt the katana's movements. In the tea ceremony, distracting thoughts will create wasteful gestures. In this way, Japanese kata serves as a vessel to project the human inner self outward. In other words, kata itself becomes a mirror reflecting the state of the mind.
Yeah, that's right.
Master Kusunoki, please refrain from interrupting with unnecessary comments during my explanation, as it distracts me. In Japan, whether it's martial arts, tea ceremony, or kabuki, everything begins with thorough imitation. The reasoning behind why do that movement comes later. Questions like why stop here must also be set aside for the time being. Students are taught to copy their master's actions flawlessly down to the angle of their fingertips, the rhythm of their breathing, and the placement of their gaze. This learning system engraves truth into the body before the mind. The process of mastering kata involves an important step called Shu-Ha-Ri. This concept is also depicted in the stories of the swordsmen featured in Demon Slayer. The first stage is Shu. This means to protect. This is the stage where one faithfully upholds and executes the master's teachings and the school's kata, adhering to every word and action without question. Think of Tanjiro's training days with Urokodaki, where he endlessly swung his sword and ran down trapped mountains. That is Shu. Boring repetitive practice burns the circuits into the brain and muscles so techniques can be unleashed unconsciously. In the West, knowledge is valued for being verbalized and logically explained. However, the essential aspects of martial arts and performing arts cannot be conveyed through words. Lower your hips, lower your center of gravity, relax your strength. While these instructions can be understood intellectually, the actual sensation they describe cannot be grasped without physical experience. Through repeated practice of kata, subtle bodily sensations that defy words, the rhythm of breathing, the balance of applying and releasing force, the timing of pauses gradually become ingrained in the body. Watching the master's movements, imitating them, and repeating them countless times, there comes a moment when the body suddenly understands, this is what it means. This is not mere muscle memory. Through kata practice, body and mind integrate, consciousness and unconsciousness merge, and the boundary between self and world dissolves. The distinction between body and mind vanishes, ego consciousness fades away, and one approaches a Zen-like state where only the action itself exists. The second stage is Ha. This means to break. This is the stage where those who have fully mastered a kata break free from its constraints by building upon it while incorporating their own innovations and adaptations. Remember when Tanjiro adapts his water-breathing forms to the situation or combines two techniques? He isn't ignoring the kata. He can improvise because he fully owns the kata. Breaking form without knowing it is just sloppy. But breaking kata after mastering it is called unconventional mastery, and it is highly praised. The third stage is Ri. This means to depart. It is becoming free from kata and reaching one's own realm. It is the realm where the movement itself becomes a new kata, no longer requiring conscious effort. This is precisely the realm the Hashira have reached. For example, the technique Gyu developed, water breathing, 11th form dead calm, can be said to embody this very Ri. Many people associate the word form primarily with fixed styles. However, Japan's kata is ultimately a passport to abandoning that form and achieving freedom. Through constraint, attain ultimate freedom. This paradox is the very essence of Japanese martial arts. In Western values, fitting into a mold is sometimes used negatively, implying a loss of individuality or creativity. However, in traditional Japanese performing arts, it is believed that true individuality blossoms precisely within the strict confines of kata. In no theater, every movement follows strictly defined kata. Yet, a performance by a master and one by a beginner, even using the same kata, convey entirely different impressions. It is precisely because there is a common language of kata that subtle differences in expression within it stand out, allowing the performer's individuality and interpretation to emerge. Complete freedom can actually make it difficult to know what to express and how. It is the constraint of kata that fosters deep ingenuity and individuality within its framework. Shado, the Japanese calligraphy, is also the same. Regular script has strict kata, and every character is written according to that kata. Yet the calligrapher's individuality manifests in the brushwork within that kata, the variations in ink density, and the dialogue with the paper. A calligrapher who has fully mastered the kata is not bound by it, they express themselves through the kata. This is the state of Ri.
Well, I guess that's true.
So right now, I'm not asking for your consent. Please just be quiet for a moment. The concept of kata is most embodied by Zenitsu. He can only use one of the 6 kata of the thunder-breathing technique, the first form, thunderclap and flash. From a Western perspective of form, that is, in terms of technique variations, his list of techniques remains incomplete. Therefore, he appears to be an immature and incomplete swordsman. However, from the perspective of Japan's kata, he has in a sense reached the ultimate. Day after day, he hones a single kata with blood-sweating effort. That single strike, sharpened to its absolute limit, transcends mere swordsmanship and becomes thunder itself. In Japan, mastering one path is highly valued as true craftsmanship. His strength comes not from knowing many forms but from betting his life on a single kata. Look at the Japanese tea ceremony. Why are there such complex procedures just to drink tea? The angle of the bow, the turning of the bowl, and the way one walks on tatami mats are all prescribed. By performing the kata, we clear our minds of daily distractions and enter a state of nothingness. In other words, by undergoing the ritualistic process known as kata, those who perform it switch their focus from the everyday world to the spiritual realm. When the swordsmen in Demon Slayer use total concentration breathing, they are enhancing their physical abilities while shifting their minds into a sacred combat mode. The kata of breathing serves as a trigger for their spirit. Swordsmen repeat their breathing during battle, reaching the pinnacle of concentration. Each breath shapes their individual kata, and when mind and body move in perfect unison, the technique emerges naturally. When watching Demon Slayer with this perspective, the many kata, the characters unleashed, start to look less like purely physical techniques and more like symbols of a state of mind or a level attained through training, don't they? The work Demon Slayer can truly be said to express Japan's traditional philosophy of kata in the form of modern entertainment.
Yeah, you could put it that way.
You've been looking like you want to say something for a while now. Surely you're not planning to complain about my flawless explanation?
No, it is not quite that. I just felt that my understanding of kata is slightly different from Sukeroku.
I see. Well then, if you feel confident, you can offer a better interpretation than I can of what the kata means to Master Kusunoki. I'd be delighted to hear it.
Kata is the way itself. The heart of the one who created the kata is expressed in the outside world exactly as it is. In other words, it is a time capsule from the past, compressing the master's physical sensations and their philosophy of victory in each field. The very first swordsman who devised water breathing seized the ultimate movement in the midst of a life or death battle. Even without being put into words, that movement itself was packaged and passed down as kata. When Tanjiro takes the stance of the first form, he synchronizes through his body with the swordsman who inherited that kata and with the spirit of his master, Urokodaki. The same goes for Hinokami Kagura. That dance is not merely an attack form, but a prayerful kata that binds souls from father to child. They breathe the same air, use the same muscles, and see the same world as the predecessors who carried that kata before them. In the moment one takes a kata, the individual body becomes part of a vast current called history. This is a sensibility deeply connected to the uniquely Japanese view of life and death. An individual life is short and fragile, but kata is passed on through countless lives. In time, that kata becomes a single way, and then a chain of souls carried forward through inheritance. In other words, the essence of the story, Demon Slayer, is a journey that portrays Tanjiro exploring what kind of kata truly expresses who he really is. And the same is true for the swordsmen other than Tanjiro. Each of them is portrayed in a human drama where they move beyond the stages of Shu-Ha-Ri and continue searching for a kata that is uniquely their own. A pioneer in a given field creates effective means within that field, in other words, a kata. Then through the hands of their disciples, the kata devised by the master is nurtured and refined, brushed up into something even better. This is what becomes the way that allows the field itself to evolve. For example, each kata in the tea ceremony is filled with centuries of accumulated experience and refinement passed down through generations. The graceful movements, the efficient procedures without waste, the quiet presence. All of these were born from people continuously asking themselves, over long stretches of time, what they find beautiful and how they should live. If kata represents the heart of its creator, then it becomes a way in which that heart is passed on, like a baton from disciple to disciple. When the word way is expressed in Japanese, it is pronounced do. The way of the katana becomes kendo. The way of the samurai becomes bushido. The way of tea becomes sado. The way of calligraphy becomes shodo. The gentle way becomes judo, and the way of the bow becomes kyudo. In this way, all Japanese martial arts and traditional arts carry this character, do.
So what are you trying to say, exactly?
To master a field by walking through the way of kata, from the first kata to the second kata and beyond, is not something limited to Tanjiro, Rengoku, the members of the Demon Slayer Corps, or even to Japanese martial arts and traditional arts. In other words, in every field across the world, kata exists, and there is a way created by kata linked together. By mastering each kata through the steps of Shu-Ha-Ri and continuing along that way of kata, it means that over the long journey called life, you can become anyone you choose to be and achieve absolutely anything. So if there is a field you yourself want to pursue, the first thing to do is to master the leading pioneer's kata. Do that, and anyone can become a master in that field.
So, does that mean that if anyone can put the concept of kata into practice, they can become anything?
That's right.
Incidentally, Master Kusunoki was recognized by the 24th century Ministry of Time and Space as a samurai, who mastered the philosophy of happiness and granted the title of Sen-Nin. But does the philosophy of happiness also have a kata? If such a kata exists, could you show me how it's done?
Right now, I'm literally in the middle of performing happy breathing, first form relax.
At first you were so passionate about insisting on the word kata that you practically got angry, yet in your own field, you're casually saying form, you know. Is that really okay?
For people in the English-speaking world, form is their native word, so it's the easiest to imagine.
Then what exactly have our interactions been about all this time? And besides, I asked you to show me the kata of the philosophy of happiness, but to me it just looks like you're lying around reading manga, doesn't it?
Happy breathing, first form relax, is a kata where you lie on your side, propped up on one elbow, and do whatever you like. You should try it too, Sukaroku. Start with Shu, the first step of Shu-Ha-Ri.
If you want to increase our channel's subscribers even a little, please take this more seriously and stop messing around. Otherwise, people will start to wonder if even my perfectly crafted explanation segment is just a joke.
And this is happy breathing, second form sleep.
I told you not to mess around. This is all for today's SAMURAIMAN's journal. Persons interested in SAMURAIMAN's journey to a happy life and thinking, I want to travel with him, too, are welcome to click this comment button and subscribe to the channel. Well, see you again in the next video.